Imagine staring into the eyes of someone you love. Your breath shortens, your chest tightens. Time seems to slow. You feel like you've touched something sacred, maybe destiny, maybe meaning itself. Now imagine this. It's all a lie. Your feelings aren't divine. They're biological manipulation. Your soul isn't burning, it's obeying a command. And that person, not your one and only, just a well-matched genetic container. Could you live with that? Could you keep loving, knowing it's not you who loves, but your body seeking reproduction? Schopenhauer believed exactly that and said it with the cold clarity of a surgeon dissecting a dream. Love is the mask of the will to life, a trick to get you to obey. To most, love is everything. It's the meaning of songs, films, wars, and peace. But Schopenhauer invites us to look deeper and find no romance at all. You don't choose whom you love. One day you wake up and you're possessed. Why him? Why her? Why give up your life, your dignity, sometimes your sanity, for a glance, a touch, an illusion of being chosen? Here's the disturbing paradox. The more powerful the feeling, the less freedom you have. You call it love, but it's not you choosing. It's something inside you choosing for you. Schopenhauer wasn't a cynic in the shallow sense. He didn't mock love. He dissected it. He said, the will to life is blind, unconscious, and uses your thoughts, feelings, and desires as tools. And love is its greatest tool, not for you, for the species. Love drives you mad, so you'll desire what the will deems worthy of reproduction. Everything else, romance, poetry, dreams, is wrapping paper. You feel it, yes, but you didn't create it. So there you are in love, thinking you've found your person. But nature, cool and indifferent, smiles silently. She has completed her task. Have you ever wondered why you're drawn to certain people and not others? Why you ignore those who are kind, loyal, and safe, only to obsess over the ones who hurt you? Why passion so often contradicts love? Why you chase people who destroy you and overlook those who would build with you? Because you don't control it. Because you are a vessel. And something older than you is running the show, with its own goals. That's the grand paradox. You believe you love with your soul, but you love because your body demands it. You feel holiness. Inside, chemicals, biology, programming. If you're still listening, if you haven't turned away, simplified, or forgotten, then you've reached the edge of a precipice. What then is love? And more urgently, can you trust it? Before we dive deeper into Schopenhauer's philosophy and expose how this illusion infiltrates your life like the veins of a tree, leave a comment below. Do you believe love is a lie? Like and subscribe, not just for the algorithm, but to support content that dares to explore the shadows of the human soul. Now, let's go deeper. Let's uncover why this illusion is so powerful and what it's hiding behind your emotions. You think you're chasing love, but in truth, you're chasing immortality. Love is merely a beautiful mask hiding your terror of death. And that terror is the engine behind almost everything in the human psyche. Arthur Schopenhauer looked directly into that engine. For him, the human being is not a free agent of will, but a tool, used by a blind, irrational, amoral force, the will to life. It has no concern for your happiness. It doesn't care about your feelings or your fate. Its goal is one, continuation, and it will use you to achieve it. We fall in love not because we love, but because something blind inside us demands that we love. And that's where the problem begins. You believe love is personal, but it's not. It's impersonal. You think it's about us, but really it's about them, the future, the unborn, the ones not yet here. Love is evolution's master stroke, designed so you'll surrender everything. Your time, your body, your mind for an idea that is not your own. Carl Jung called this possession by the archetype. You see in someone else the image of your anima or animus, the archetypal opposite buried in your unconscious. You fall not for a real person, but for a projection of your own shadow, your lack, your forgotten self. You didn't meet love. You collided with your reflection. You think it's her, but it's you. And soon, you're consumed by euphoria, anxiety, obsession, belief. All of it feels sacred, but biologically, it's identical to addiction. Dr. Gabor Maté says that addiction is not a weakness, it's pain trying to escape. In that light, destructive love is also addiction. Not connection, but escape. Not union, but anesthesia. In our world, love becomes a way to avoid ourselves. Not to meet another, but to disappear in them. That's why you're more afraid of losing them than of losing yourself. Because you don't even know where you end and they begin. And this brings us back to Schopenhauer. The will uses you like a puppet. You believe you're making your own choices, but in truth, you are following orders. Falling in love is its final sleight of hand. It hides its command beneath the veil of poetry, and society, of course, supports the illusion. From childhood, you're told, find your other half. Without them, you're nothing, incomplete. Culture is designed to make you search, suffer, chase, collapse, and resurrect, all in the name of love. But what kind of love? The kind that's often one-sided, addictive, exhausting, toxic. Why do we romanticize what destroys us? Friedrich Nietzsche said, "Man is a rope stretched between beast and overman." And in love, man collapses back into the beast, not toward freedom, but toward craving, toward passion that looks like emotion but is actually hunger. Jung warned, what you do not make conscious will appear in your life as fate. Until you realize that love may be a tool of a deeper force, it will continue to rule you. You will replay the same patterns. Why do I fall for people who don't choose me? Why do I lose myself in relationships? Why am I terrified of being alone? Because it's not you speaking. It's a deeper voice. One without a face, one you've never seen but always obeyed. Aldous Huxley warned us, in the future, control will not come through pain, but pleasure. People will willingly wear chains, as long as those chains feel like emotion, especially the sweet, addictive emotion called love. You believe love makes you free, but often it makes you a slave to pattern, a slave to instinct, a slave to the fear of loneliness you've carried your whole life. Now we arrive at the deepest wound. What if you've never actually loved? What if you've just been following a code, calling it a feeling? What if you were never the author, just a vessel? Can you admit that? Or will you choose to keep believing the fairy tale? If this hits you somewhere real, if something stirs inside, leave a like and share this video. Someone you know may be trapped in this illusion right now. But this is just the surface. Next, we'll uncover the invisible consequences of this obsession we call love. How it shapes your life, your fate, and turns you into a stranger to yourself. You live thinking that love is your own experience, but silently, softly, almost sweetly, it becomes your prison. A prison you decorate with photos, memories, and promises of forever. And you don't even notice it happening. It begins as a flutter, a spark, then an obsession. You no longer think for yourself. You wake up asking, did they reply? You fall asleep wondering, why were they online but didn't text back? You're no longer alone in your mind. You are with someone, constantly, compulsively, painfully. Here's the first shadow. Love erases the boundaries of I. You call it closeness. But often it's fusion. It's not intimacy, it's disappearance. You no longer know who you are without them. And if they leave, you fall apart. Neuroscience tells us, in love, the same brain areas light up as in cocaine addiction. Love suppresses the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for critical thinking. You become blind, willingly blind. You ignore signs, warnings, humiliations. Everything that doesn't fit your romantic story simply doesn't register because your brain, your logic, your identity are all now altered by dopamine and oxytocin. You're high, but that you isn't really you. Now imagine this happening not just in you, but in culture. Movies, advertisements, songs, novels, all whisper the same lie. Love is the highest good. It's the only thing worth dying for. It's salvation. You've been programmed since childhood to believe that neither knowledge, nor freedom, nor inner strength will save you. Only love. But what price are you paying for that belief? How many people stayed in toxic relationships because they were in love? How many women endured abuse because he's not always like this? How many men destroyed themselves because she was everything? Schopenhauer wrote not out of bitterness, but out of lucidity. He saw marriage not as the union of souls, but as a conspiracy between nature and illusion, where one becomes the tool and the other, the casualty. Marriage is a trap where freedom dies under the name of happiness. That's why when love ends, what you feel is like waking from hypnosis. You look at the person and wonder, how did I ever burn for them? Because it wasn't you, it was a state. But the real wound, it remains even after love ends. You start to doubt your worth, yourself. You ask, why didn't they choose me? But the better question is, why did I let them decide my worth? You stop trusting your feelings, but without them, life feels hollow. You fear love, but solitude terrifies you more. You're trapped, because everything you were taught about love was a lie. You thought love would save you, but in reality, it masked your fear of being alone. You thought love was light, but it turned out to be the shadows of childhood, trauma, and unmet needs. You started playing at love before you even knew who you were. And so every love became a war for attention, validation, to be told, you are enough. Therapist John Bradshaw wrote, we use others to feel that we're okay, but as long as we need to do that, we're not okay. Love becomes a drug for inner emptiness. You don't want someone, you want relief from being you. You want not to be alone. Not to be inside yourself, not to be in silence. Now look at the trail behind you. How much time have you wasted chasing a ghost? How much pain have you justified in the name of feeling something? Now ask, who designed this? Answer, no one and everyone. Culture, history, biology, childhood. They gave you a vision of love as rescue. But what if love is just a socially accepted form of dependency? You're not to blame for falling into the trap, but you're responsible for climbing out of it. If you feel this truth rising inside you, drop a comment. When did love become pain for you? And share this video. Someone close to you might be stuck in the very same pattern. But this isn't the end, because next, we'll start the rebellion. We'll show how to break the chain, to stop being a puppet in the hands of instinct, and begin to live differently. Imagine walking across a bridge. Beneath you, chaos. Behind you, all the ideas you once held sacred about love. Ahead, unknown territory. On one side, you, ruled by instinct. On the other, you, free. You hesitate because you don't know who you are without that love. But that hesitation is the proof that it's time. Rebellion against illusion doesn't start with a scream. It starts in silence, with a question. What if everything I felt wasn't mine? That's the beginning of freedom, doubt. You stop trusting what seems natural, because what's called natural is often just the habit of the species, not the choice of the individual. Schopenhauer said the only way to escape the will is not to fight it with more will, but to refuse to play the game altogether. a conscious abstention, not from feeling but from blind surrender, a refusal to want what nature demands of you. That sounds radical, maybe even joyless, but ask yourself, hasn't your pain also been radical? Hasn't your so-called love often felt more like slavery than bliss? Breaking free doesn't mean becoming numb. It means learning to feel what is truly yours. Stop searching for the perfect partner. Instead, look at the story you're repeating. Why are you drawn to those who don't choose you? Why do you want to save people who break you down? That's not love. That's a wound. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Your type isn't a preference. It's a repetition of pain. You're not drawn to people. You're drawn to the same unfinished trauma. And every time you hope this time will be different, but it won't until you break the pattern. Here's the first act of rebellion. Admit that your version of love has been a habit of suffering. Here's the second. Stop romanticizing pain. You are not more deep because you're being broken. You are not more real when you lose yourself in someone. Your true self is the one that remains when all else leaves, the self that can stand alone and not collapse. Jean-Paul Sartre said freedom is terrifying because it requires choice and responsibility, but it's also salvation because it makes you the author of your life, not a side character in someone else's drama. That's what breaking free means. Saying no to what always seemed right. Being alone and not fleeing from it. Seeing your feelings not as divine signs, but as chemical dependencies. No longer begging for value in someone else's eyes. This is a revolution. Quiet, internal. But it is a revolution. You no longer crave love as proof of worth. You want love as a meeting between two whole beings. Not broken halves, not saviors and victims. Just two souls standing, not collapsing. You're no longer a slave to biology. You are consciousness capable of interrupting the cycle. You don't have to repeat what was passed down to you. You don't have to walk the same path as everyone else. You can choose differently. In a world where love is marketed, romanticized, and monetized, the most radical act is to remain fully yourself. And if one day you love again, it won't be because something possessed you. It'll be because you chose, calmly, clearly, without illusion. You'll be able to say, I love not because I need to, but because I want to. And if it ends, I won't vanish. I will remain. That is real freedom. That is rebellion. If you've made it this far, then you've already started. Something inside you has begun to awaken. And that something is the very thing the will fears most. Clarity. Share this video with someone who's caught in a pattern, who feels confused by love, who thinks they are broken. And subscribe, because in the final chapter, we'll reveal the ultimate truth. The one that will bring everything into focus. The one that will make it all, finally, make sense. You reach the end. And suddenly it hits you. You were never searching for love. You were searching for yourself. All those faces, all those feelings, all those stories, they were mirrors. You looked at them like gods. But in truth, you were looking for your own reflection in someone else's eyes. Schopenhauer called the will to life blind because it knows nothing of your individuality. But there's one thing it fears. Your awareness, your ability to see through it. Here it is, the final revelation. Love is not the enemy, but love becomes dangerous when you forget why you love. You craved fusion because you felt incomplete, but the incompleteness wasn't born in romance. It was born long ago, in places you've forgotten. You didn't want a partner. You wanted to be seen. You weren't chasing intimacy. You were chasing confirmation that you were worthy, and so love became the language of pain, disguised as hope. But now, in the deepest layer of yourself, you see, No one can give you what you haven't first allowed yourself. This is the highest truth. Love is not a feeling. It is a form of consciousness. And once you begin to ask why you love, love ceases to be a sentence and becomes a choice. You can feel desire without losing yourself. You can bond without dissolving. You can walk away, not because you stopped loving, but because you've chosen not to abandon yourself again. Schopenhauer's philosophy terrifies many because it stares directly into the abyss. But he never said, don't love. He said, understand what love is. And in that understanding, you become free. True maturity arrives when you can love without need, give without demand, leave without shattering, stay without losing who you are. This isn't the death of love. It's its transformation. It isn't coldness, it's clarity. It isn't cynicism, it's power. You were once a slave to the will. Now you are its witness. You once lived by inherited scripts. Now you are the author. Aldous Huxley warned us, the future won't need tyranny. It will need only pleasure. People will gladly wear chains as long as those chains feel good. But there is something stronger than pleasure. Understanding. Understanding that liberates. You now recognize in every I fell in love a pattern, in every I can't live without them. A child crying not for the lover but for themselves. This is your turning point. Love in which you remain yourself is sacred. Love in which you disappear is betrayal. And now you know what to do with that knowledge. You will no longer suffer, depend, cling, diminish. You will choose to exist, to share, to walk away when necessary, to stay. Only when you stay from strength, not fear. Just think, how many lives could be saved if this truth became normal? How many breakups, suicides, addictions, and traumas could be prevented if we were taught from the beginning, you are whole. Love is not rescue. It's the meeting of two sovereign beings. From this moment forward, you have a choice to continue living as you always have, chained to illusions, or to live with eyes open, to live knowing that love is not what controls you, but what you carry with integrity. And if something in you just went quiet, if something deep inside said yes, then don't keep this to yourself. Share it with someone caught in confusion, with someone who thinks love broke them, with someone who deserves to know they were never broken, just misled. Comment below, what changed for you when you realized love is a state of awareness? Like this video if something in you became clearer, softer, stronger, and subscribe, because there are still shadows to explore, still truths to uncover, still parts of you waiting to be reclaimed. Remember this, you were not made to disappear in someone else. You were made to be.